This is the Wandering Mike.
Welcome everyone to the Wandering Mike. Today I'm here with Hannah. Hey Hannah, how you?
Hi, how are you doing?
Pretty good. Was a actually a very warm day today. It
Yeah,
was
it's been
pretty
a nice
nice.
day. I had quite a chill day. It's been good.
Nice. Yeah, and now I'm looking forward to our conversation. I think it's gonna be a nice one. So to get us started, if you just wanna introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your life, your journey, anything you want to share.
Yeah. Yes, I'm Hannah. I'm from a place called Leicestershire in the UK, kind of right in the middle of England, if you haven't heard of it.
Mhm.
Um, and I had a pretty normal upbringing. Just in a little market town, had everything I needed, and then 18, went to uni, and then did mechanical engineering, and then once I graduated, I moved to London and worked as a data engineer. But yeah, aside from kind of more like professional stuff, personally, I'm pretty outdoorsy.
Mhm.
Um, well, I'm kind of all outdoor sport. Definitely that's where I'm happiest. Also really like kind of music and writing music and playing music and learning
Mm.
new instruments. Um, but yeah, I guess why I'm here in New Zealand would be I kind of reached a point in my job where I was like, this doesn't really feel me, and I wanted to be doing something more outdoorsy. So I thought I'd take a break for a bit and figure that out. So I decided to get on a plane to New Zealand, and yeah, here I am.
Right. Um, yeah, I mean, being outdoorsy, Queenstown definitely
Yeah,
is the
it's
place
a
to be
place
pretty
for it.
much. Um, so just for the people as well, how long have you been in New Zealand so far?
Yeah, so I've been here about 8 weeks. So I spent 4 weeks driving around the North Island. I just picked up a rental car, and then just worked my way around, kind of a bit of roughing it really. I think my friends or family were a bit surprised when I told them I was kind of sleeping in my car and going around campsite.
Hmm.
But I found it really freeing and fun. Uh, and along the way, I visited it. I had some very distant family, which was really nice.
Oh, sure.
That no one on my side of the family had really met for a long, long time. So that was quite nice to see some of them and kind of learn a bit about their lives. And then, yeah, about 3 weeks ago, I flew down to the South Island and did a similar thing, and I've been working my way around the South Island.
You flew to Christchurch?
Yeah, flew
Right.
to Christchurch, and it was actually really nice because I mentioned to my family that I was going, and I probably won't be back for Christmas because I'm gonna continue traveling afterwards.
Yeah.
So they very spontaneously said that they weren't gonna replace the car that had just broken down and would pay to fly over to New Zealand for Christmas. So
Oh,
they actually flew all the way out here as well as my sister. So
oh, that's
that
very
was
cool.
really, really special to have them here too. But yeah, they left a few days ago, so that was a bit weird saying goodbye to them for the
Right.
next kind of 6 or months or so. Yeah.
Right. Um, so yeah, let's take it back a little
Mm,
bit and then we eventually arrived back
mm,
in New Zealand.
sure.
And yeah, because I also want to know a little bit more about the plans and all that. But so you said you worked where you studied and then worked as a data engineer.
Mm.
Um, so what was the original motivation? What excited you about the topic? What made you want to work in that field?
Yeah. So when I was training as a mechanical engineer, I went to a university in England called Loughborough University, and they were really big on kind of placements. So
Mm,
I actually did like a placement year, which was actually less to do with mechanical engineering and more database.
right.
And that was actually a very fun job, where I basically would test tennis courts and tennis
Mm,
balls, and that was all collecting data. So um, yeah, they'd fly me around the world testing tennis courts. And then I realized, this is actually quite a cool discipline. And I think it was way more me than the kind of building things. Like mechanical engineering is
right.
more like you're building structures and testing them and breaking them. whereas I think my brain is more kind of analytical. So
Mm.
I kind of got into more kind of coding and data through that.
That's actually quite a cool job in general.
Yeah.
Like because data engineer, obviously, you could be working with a lot of data,
Yeah.
and data engineers, if I'm not mistaken, are basically needed in every field because there's always data, and it's
Yeah.
always important to analyze data towards whatever you want to get out of it.
Yeah.
But testing tennis courts, I
Yeah.
mean,
I
it's
know.
like quite exciting.
Yeah.
More so than maybe putting data from factories or stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
um, how was all that? Did you have an interest in tennis as well, or was that just like you just swooped in there?
Yes, I kind of had grown up playing a lot of tennis.
Right.
I'd done a lot of racket sports, kind of squash. I did competed at for that and travel around the country doing squash. So when I had the chance to do a job relating to that, and I
Yeah.
didn't really know what it was going to entail because I think my kind of career team knew that I was interested in racket sports, and they had this job, and it was 2 lines on a Word document and I had no
Mm,
idea what it entailed, but I applied and went down to London for the interview and got it.
right.
And then I realized, oh, actually, this isn't like a London-based job. This is a worldwide job.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a great time, and I was 20 when I was doing that. So
Right.
that was my first time kind of solo traveling around the world. Because quite often yeah, they could I was the cheapest person to send basically because I was kind of an
Mm,
intern, so they could just send me on an economy flight
right.
rather than those senior people on their business flights. So I was sent kind of quite far, like to Japan and to the States all on my own. So yeah, that was a great experience.
That is pretty cool. So that, like you said, was basically your first um experience
Mm,
abroad, or solo traveling.
yeah, 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 definitely. I learned a lot through it, and I think it's quite liberating when you get there and kind of in Japan, I didn't really speak much of the language, but
Yeah.
realizing that you can get by quite easily. You find a way to communicate, even if it's not by kind of your words, your actions can
Mm,
actually how you use your hands and kind of that can actually really help when you're trying to like ask where something is or explain something or yeah. So that was quite cool.
w- you mentioned Japan
Mhm.
and the States.
Yeah.
Was that the main countries that you were working on?
Yeah, and then I did a lot around Europe. So when I was starting off, when they were kind of judging how confident I was,
Mm.
they started me off around kind of like Madrid and
Oh,
Helsinki
oh,
and
nice.
Stockholm. Those were my kind of first ones I started at. Yeah, and then once I'd done those, I kind of done the work there on my own, showed that I was able to retrieve all the data and do the reports, and I was okay going on my own. And they were able to then let's go send her off to somewhere else even further. So yeah, that's how that started.
So in the beginning, would they send someone with you that showed you the ropes, or did they just fully throw you in there?
Thankfully, on my very first trip, my manager came with me, and also
Right.
a colleague who I was working with came. But it was actually quite funny because we arrived in Helsinki uh, to do our job, but the court was so bad because it was built on an ice rink, so they had this big
Oh,
bubbles
wow.
on it, so we couldn't even do our job and test it. Um, so I ended up being there for 3 days. We had no job to do, so we ended up just getting electric scooters and just going around the city for 3 days. So
That's actually so hilarious because when you said
yeah.
Helsinki, I was thinking, what did they do it on ice? I didn't
Yeah,
think they have
literally,
tennis
yeah.
courts and they
Yeah,
literally
they just
do
built
that.
it on top. I didn't think they really had many tennis courts, and they needed, like, a big arena with loads of seats. So
Right.
they were like, "Let's use this ice rink." But I think they still managed to play on it in the end, but I think it was a bit of a kind of cut a hole with a knife and to glue it down, so a bit of a bodge job, really.
So all these courts actually were like quote unquote like official courts as well, like used for tournaments and stuff like that.
Yeah, so the company I worked for was the International Tennis Federation, which
Right.
is basically like they run, like, the World Cup of tennis, so it's one
Mm,
country versus another. So
Oh yeah.
that's why one of the countries would be hosting, and I'd fly to that country. I think it's called like the Davis Cup and the Billie Jean Cup. Now that's like the name of the tournament.
Yeah. I heard of that where it's like a couple of singles and I have a double as well. I've
Yeah.
heard of
So you're
that.
like
Yeah.
competing in a team with several other players for your country.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was how I did that. But yeah,
Nice. Um, so yeah, Japan.
Japan.
Uh,
Yeah.
that's funnily, I feel like we have like 4 or 5 episodes already where I always, when Japan comes up, I always say this has been repeating, and here we are again because I haven't been to Japan yet.
Okay.
I would really love
Yeah,
to,
you should go.
because yeah, I keep hearing Japan, and I keep hearing these nice experiences. So, what was for you like the thing you loved most about Japan?
Yeah, I would definitely say it probably was my favorite trip I had. I had a bit longer. I had a week, which was
Hmm.
quite nice because it was actually cheaper to fly me Sunday to Sunday.
Right.
So I just stayed a bit longer, which was quite nice, and I took some annual leave. I think what I particularly liked was mm, it's hard to put it in words, but I think the culture there was completely different to
Mm,
in England. I think in England, a lot of people often like say it how it is, whereas in Japan, there's this like
right.
element of respect, which is really like
Yeah.
interesting to see. Um, I think also just the freedom of I could just get a train to a like another part of Japan, and I could
Mm,
just book a hostel or a hotel and stay there for the night. And it was my first time like properly just wandering around like a city like on my own and just feeling completely safe. I think Japan felt so safe. Particularly, I was quite young, like pretty new to traveling,
yeah.
and like I felt safer there than most places in Europe. So that was a big part too.
Was it Tokyo that you were at?
So the tournament, it was a place called Kobe, which is where like Kobe beef is from.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So the tournament was there, and it's quite near Osaka. So I got a train to Osaka, and then I also got a train to Kyoto, which
Yeah,
is the
I
really
heard that.
old, like the old capital.
The like more
Yeah.
traditional
Yes.
style.
And it's all like really preserved, and you've got
Mm,
those wooden buildings and streets, and
right.
everyone dresses up in the like traditional clothing,
Yeah.
and they walk around and that sort of thing. So
Yeah, that place definitely on my list as
yeah,
well.
yeah, you should go. You can definitely
Well,
spend like
when
so
I
much
go.
time there as well. So I only had a week, but I would love to go back and like do a ski season there. I met
Mm,
someone in the hostel and they said that was their best working visa that they did. So I
yeah,
think that would be cool.
my colleague that we had on the podcast, well, once your episode comes out, that's probably like couple of weeks gone already.
Hmm.
Um, but she actually just left to Japan
Nice.
again because she's already been there
Yeah.
for their winter, and then she actually came here for the winter season as well
Mhm.
to do some skiing instructor work here as well.
Yeah.
And then she started helping us out as a night porter as well.
Yeah.
And now they wanted her back in Japan though, so,
Wow.
yeah, she went back, and she told so many nice stories about Japan.
Mhm.
She really, seems to like it, and it seems to be a place, especially for most of the Brits that I meet here,
Yeah.
where they really love to go for skiing season, so it seems to be
Yeah.
that kind of place.
I definitely I what the girl from the hostel told me was a lot of like Australians and Brits might go to
Mm,
ski in Japan, which means they need people who can speak English, like to work in
right.
the kind of the hotels or like the ski rentals. So like I think just being able to speak English is a big thing there.
Mm.
So you can get a job hopefully. Hopefully I could get a job there. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Yeah, um, so well, I feel like I had something else. Oh yeah, obviously, you couldn't choose when you were going there because it was work.
Mhm.
But did it by chance fall into the period of like cherry blossoms? Did that happen while you were there?
The Hanami season, I was
Yeah.
pretty lucky. So I actually flew in March 2020.
Oh yeah.
So it was,
Oh,
yeah,
right.
yeah. But thankfully it was like the beginning of the season, so a few were blossoms, like some trees. I wasn't
Mm,
there in the peak, but that actually reminded me of the timing of it was pretty crazy because March 2020 was the beginning of the outbreak.
yeah.
Um, yeah, no, I was actually for that trip. I think I was due to go with actually another person to that trip.
Mm,
She was doing another job for the tournament. But because of the COVID outbreak, we were seeing it on the news. It was kind of just starting, and we didn't really know
yeah.
if it was going to reach England at that point. And she decided because she had asthma not to go. So that meant I was going. And then they double checked that I was still okay to go.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, of course, Japan, gotta go. And I think my parents and grandparents might have been a bit worried because if I'd got something out there, if I caught COVID or the borders shut or something,
Because it's
then
considerably closer to China
yeah,
than England
exactly.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they're a bit worried I might not make it back. And I definitely was quite wary. Like I was pretty much wearing one of those big masks
So
everywhere.
was it already showing in Japan as well? Like, were the people aware of it while you were there?
Yeah, I remember when I first arrived and everyone was wearing like these fabric black masks.
Right.
And I actually thought, whoa, this is really weird and slightly scared by it because I hadn't really seen it. Like wearing a mask myself was quite weird. And
Yeah.
so then seeing everyone wear them, particularly on trains and public transport, but some a lot in the
Mm.
streets as well. So that was actually one of my first when I arrived there. I was kind of quite shocked by, but obviously it became quite a norm
And
for the
then,
rest of the world after that. So yeah.
yeah, but I guess that's part of why it was particularly scary in the beginning because in the beginning we didn't have, well, we, the people, the scientists probably a bit more, but we didn't really know a lot. And it
Mm,
was just like, yeah, wear these masks, everything's gonna be all right, kind of. And so in the beginning, it was more scary than a couple
mm,
of months in because we were kind of like becoming normal,
yeah.
kind of. But yeah, especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
So did you um still do that work during COVID then, or did your internship kind of end at that point?
Yeah, so my internship was due to end in June
I
anyway,
see.
and then I had the summer off before heading back to uni. So I only really had a few months when it was kind of impacted by it.
Yeah,
But by that point, I was doing like a research project within the lab anyway.
right.
So timing wise, it was actually not too bad. So
Because yeah, that would have been interesting.
yeah,
All the travel that it entails with
yeah,
these restrictions, and yeah, that would
yeah.
have.
So it would have been a very different year, I think, if it happened a year later. So I was quite fortunate with that, really. But yeah.
So yeah, by that through that internship, you basically said, yeah, that's more kind of what I want to do, like more these analytical
Mm,
analytical things, and that's what you went into then.
yeah.
And you did that for how long?
I worked 3 years in London doing that. I worked like for a consultancy where you move around a bit. So they trained me up for a few like 15 weeks of training. So to teach me kind of Python and
Right.
something called SQL, which is to do like a coding for databases.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then I worked for Sainsbury's for a year, which is kind of a big supermarket. It's like the Woolworths of New Zealand, really. But
Right.
in the UK, it's like one of the biggest like supermarkets. And then I went on and worked another year for like Lloyds Bank, which is quite
Yeah.
like an old bank in the UK. So that was quite a good experience to have both of those too.
Yeah.
Not quite as exciting as the tennis job though. I don't think anything will quite live up to that job. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you said.
Yeah.
um, yeah, the tennis definitely sounded more interesting than the bag, but
Yeah, yeah. Maybe that's kind of the reason why I decided. I think working the corporate life in London is fun at the beginning because it's very new and exciting, and you're in these skyscrapers in central London. But I think after a few years, I was like, yeah, this isn't really me, and yeah, I want to do something different for a bit. So, and yeah, I'd always wanted to travel to New Zealand. It's been a place since probably I was like 5 years old that
Mm.
I've been wanting to come. It's been like the place. So it's been a bit surreal to be here. So yeah.
Have you, like, are you a fan of The Lord of the Rings?
I am I actually grew up quite young. My dad, we'd watched them together.
Right.
Maybe a bit too young, but it was fun. I remember
I
being
don't even
really scared
remember
by it, by the
they
orcs and
they didn't really have weren't they PG rated? I feel like they
horribly.
weren't really, yeah,
They
back
probably
then
had.
the movies weren't really like,
Yeah. So, but I actually rewatched them again this Christmas when my family came over.
oh, right.
I did visit like Hobbiton when I was up in the North End, and they were like you got to do that if you're in the North Island.
Yeah, I'll visit that as well.
Yeah,
It's quite neat.
yeah,
It's
it's very
really,
cool, very cool.
really nice too. You probably were able to go into one of them as well, right? Like
Yes,
into
you can
the
go
houses.
inside. I think there's two which are like really built out that you can go into,
Yeah,
and they're very cool inside. Very a lot of attention to detail. Like
yeah.
everything is kind of placed, all these small ornaments on.
No, it was, yeah, it was really, really cool to, and it's a great idea to just let a set like stand like that
Mm,
because you don't get that for a lot of movies that you can just like walk through what it looked like.
yeah,
And so, yeah, that's
definitely
really,
cool. And they had some interesting like facts when you're doing the tour. Like they said that the scenes of the pub burning down in the Lord of the Rings
mm,
were actually real because they did burn down the set at the end of Lord of the
yeah,
Rings.
sure.
And then when they were gonna do The Hobbit, then they
They've
completely rebuilt
to
it and did
rebuild
it
it.
like proper structures. So
Yeah,
definitely
sure.
good for probably tourists, and they probably get a lot of money in New Zealand from tourists coming to do that.
Yeah, I think like Lord of the Rings is, I think, one of the biggest draws. And like here in the South Island, you also have like a lot of locations where they
Mm,
film. And I always see these. I haven't done any of them yet. Probably won't because I'm only here for 2 more weeks. Um, but there's always Lord of the Rings themed tours. Like these places are like national parks or just hiking trails, so you could just like do them as a normal hiking tour.
mm,
But if you make it sound like it's the Lord of the Rings tour, then
yeah, they gotta get the
you get
tourists.
more money in that. And but to be fair, like they give you quite a nice experience. Like they
Yeah,
have
they do it well.
like um think they bring like replica swords and stuff as well,
Mhm.
and like costumes so you can take pictures like
Wow,
in the scenery, and you can like reenact some of the scenes of the movie, so they give you a really
mm,
nice experience
that's really cool. I
there
haven't
as
done one
well.
of those kind of ones yet.
Yeah, me neither, but one of my friends actually, she like her sole reason to come here was the Lord of the Rings.
Mm.
Well, obviously not so, but she's like a huge fan. And she basically said, yes, the primary reason is to go through all the
Mm,
scenes and all like see everything. Um, and yeah, she done, I think by now 3 or 4 of these tours. And
nice.
I don't even know, she had a whole list. Like
Wow.
she she's gonna do it. She's gonna
Yeah.
see all the things that the Lord of the Rings has to offer here.
Definitely is the first thing that I got asked was when I said I was going to New Zealand, everyone was like, "Are you going to Hobbiton?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think I will. I think I
Yeah.
will."
Yeah, we had that kind of that running gag because we also had like every time we met someone new in Christchurch, like in the hostel I worked before I came here, because I spent there like quite some time, like 7 to 8 months.
Oh,
So
wow,
most
that's
of
a
my
good amount of
time,
time.
yeah, the majority of my stay here was in Christchurch. And we had a period where every time someone new came in, first question we asked her was like, "Did you watch a lot of the Rings?" Because like it seemed to be one of the questions that we all get asked relatively early in our journey was like, "So you're a fan of the Lord of the Rings?" And then we just, and occasionally, obviously, people say no because not everyone comes here just
Yeah.
because of the Lord of the Rings. And then we're like, "You're not allowed. You need to have watched the
You gotta be
movies."
a fan, yeah.
Yeah. Um, but I actually found the thing that you mentioned about London
Mhm.
pretty interesting as well. Because like you said, you come from the middle of England. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
called the Midlands.
yeah, the Midlands is what you so I'm from the East Midlands, but it's very much like rolling countryside hills and small market towns, that sort of vibe. So very
Right.
different to London, quite the contrast. Yeah.
And then like you've explained, and then especially having like a consultancy firm in the bank that you work for these skyscrapers.
Mhm.
So how was the whole London life and experience for you in general? Yeah, was it
Mhm.
exciting? Was it bewildering? I don't know how was it?
Yeah. I think I really liked it when I'd have my weekends and then I would explore a different part of London and because there are so many different boroughs and parks and different areas to explore.
Yeah.
I loved that because I could be outside and walking around different streets and areas. I think I loved that about it, and it's great for, like, the shows as well, like the musicals. So I was at the
Mhm.
beginning, I was always going to a musical every week because you could
Oh,
get them quite cheap if you went on a weeknight. So
right.
I was doing that after work, and that was really fun. Um, I did really like it, and I built quite a community there, which I really liked, and kind of made kind of really good friends with the people I lived with. I was living in a very big shared house with 6 other people. That was also
Oh,
quite an experience.
yeah.
Um, kind of I'm quite introverted, and I think through that you kind of have to be a bit extroverted because often we'd be the house which is hosting the gatherings and the parties. So that was definitely good exposure. Um, but yeah, I think as like I progressed through my years through London, like it became like the small things that I really loved. So I lived in a place called Herne Hill, which is in South London, kind
Mm,
of near Brixton. That's a bit more well known.
right.
Um, but my favorite thing was just going to the local farmers market on the Sunday and picking out a few things and getting a coffee, and then maybe going. There was like an outdoor Lido where you could swim. And then I think throughout like towards the end, that was my like highlight of those sort of things, and more being enjoying where you actually live in London rather than
Right.
like hitting all the hot spots around. But I still definitely found it very surreal, like when I'd head into the office and then I'd finish work and then you're just walking back and you see kind of Tower Bridge and then you got
Mm,
the river and that was quite really pretty and magical to be in. And I don't think the novelty of that wore off, but I think the novelty of like how busy it was and how loud and I just wanted a bit of quiet. And
right.
that's when I decided to, yeah, consider leaving. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually like relate to that quite a lot. Because I moved because also mainly because of COVID.
Okay.
Like my plans that I originally had for that year, which were traveling the world,
Mm,
um, kind of fell through. So I actually ended up in Lisbon,
nice.
Portugal,
Yeah.
where I lived for the last 3.5 years before I came to New Zealand.
Okay.
And um, it, it was very similar, maybe to your experience because I also lived in the northern part of the city, so which would be considered like a suburb.
Uh-huh.
And especially during COVID, we had home office, so wouldn't go into the city that much for work, and and obviously, especially in the beginning, we would go into the city to just explore it, and later when we were going to the office. Um, like you said, there is just something about living in a big international
Mm,
city like that. Even if you don't live right in the hotspot, whenever you like go through there and you just also being so well, at least in Lisbon, being so close to the sea as
mm,
well, and just yeah, having that feeling of this magical city definitely is always there, even if you just stay in your little part
mm.
of it, which isn't the touristy one.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, I loved my time in Lisbon as
Mm,
well. And yeah, I don't know. I always say to people that I'm not really a city person, but then again, I like my time in Lisbon. I like my time in Christchurch,
Mm.
but Christchurch, I guess, isn't also. I mean, it is a big city for New Zealand,
Yeah.
but it's still New Zealand,
Yeah.
so it's definitely way calmer than any city you would talk about in Europe.
Mm.
Um,
Did you meet many digital nomads in Lisbon? Because I heard that's really big there. They have a good visa or something.
yeah,
Okay.
actually, so the company that I was working for, which was basically like a call, or I think they call themselves a contact center now,
Mm-hmm.
like a call
Cool.
center.
Something. Yeah.
Um, and they had like markets for, I think, yeah, I should know the number because I eventually became a trainer for them as well. So I always did the presentation of the company.
Mm.
But yeah, it was like 60 something different languages. So the cool thing was that just in our company, you had so many international people. You had people from Germany, from France, from Italy, from the UK occasionally, not too much.
Okay.
Um, yeah, all over actually, Finland,
Mm.
Norway, and the the company obviously, as with big companies, has a lot of turnover as well. And one of the things was that the company just made it super easy for you um, to just go into Portugal
Mm-hmm.
because they basically, well, with being an EU citizen, it's not too hard to actually get your residency and just like everything that entails in the country. But you have to like go to the local government and like fill out some papers. And the company did all that for you. They did like your tax number and all that stuff. So a lot of people actually use the company as well to just
Okay.
like
To
get
move there.
into the system. So
Mm.
they basically arrived at the training, were in the Portuguese system, and then they quit and went on doing their own stuff. So
Okay.
just through that company, I met a lot of people that were doing like
Yeah.
digital nomad kind of stuff. A lot of people because it kind of was that time of drop shipping.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people going into drop shipping business. Um, a lot of bloggers as well, content creators,
Oh, wow. Nice.
and stuff like that. So yeah, I had a lot of friends that were doing kind of stuff like that there, and yeah, just in general, it's a place where um, a lot of international people just come to. Some people also then went on looking for another job while they were there, and like
Mm.
because yeah, the company was just a very easy entry into the country. Um, but yeah, everyone just really enjoyed the vibe of the city. It was really a magical place to live, and the people, like the Portuguese people, are just so loving
Mm.
and um, like very community oriented, um, and obviously, as someone who speaks a foreign language, you also get quite high of a salary compared to like Portuguese people that
Right.
only speak Portuguese
Okay.
because compared to Germany or even France and Italy, the salary is obviously lower
Right.
than if I would work in my native language in my native country.
Okay.
But respectively for what Portuguese people earn,
Yeah.
you earn quite a lot in the country. So it means since you are living in Portugal, you get more for your money.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
just the numbers, obviously, it's probably like not even half of what I would earn in Germany,
Yeah.
but it gets me farther because things are cheaper because people do earn less. And
Okay.
so
So your job was like in English and you on the call centers, or did you know a bit of Portuguese?
So originally it was a German.
Oh, it was actually in German. Oh, cool.
So
Nice.
originally, it was for the German market,
Nice.
and then when I became a trainer, so training the new hires in the software that we use, and also in the soft skills needed for customer service, um, I did that in English and German because the project that I then we actually started a new project that I was doing the training for, was for the German and the Dutch market.
Mhm.
So whenever we had mixed group or Dutch groups, I would do the training in English.
Yep.
And when we had exclusively German groups, I could do it in German, but that wasn't often the case. So then it basically was English. Um, and I did pick up some Portuguese while I was there,
Mhm.
just for my daily going to the market, getting
Yeah.
groceries, going out, these kind of things. But for actually being there 3.5 years, I have to say it's not where it could have been. So,
Okay.
but it's a basic Portuguese, but um,
Useful to know. I've heard like there's a lot of overlap between Portuguese and Spanish, so it'd
yeah,
probably be very easy to learn Spanish after you know a bit of Portuguese.
yeah, it definitely
Yeah.
helps me now with learning Spanish.
Yeah, you learning? Oh no.
Yeah, I actually am because I'm planning to after I do my whole thing in Australia.
But you're to Australia
Um,
next.
yeah,
Okay. When are you going? Because I'm also going.
uh,
You're going in 2 weeks, right?
and yeah, on the 25th.
So where are you going?
Well, yeah, when this episode comes
Yeah.
out, that will have passed. But yeah, in 2 weeks, I'll be going, and so actually, I'll be flying to Gold Coast
Yeah.
because it was the cheapest flight from
Okay.
Queenstown.
No.
And I did intend on staying in Queensland.
Yeah.
Um, but then very very happy about it. My family is coming and
Oh
visiting me.
no.
So because when I told the plan, which formed like maybe a month ago,
Mhm.
I was pretty sure I was gonna go to Australia, but there wasn't any like I didn't get the visa yet, I didn't get the flights yet. Um, so when I actually told them it's going to happen, they were like, "Oh yeah, Australia, we would love to visit you there." And I was kind of like, "Yeah, maybe like the beginning is the
Mhm.
best because I didn't find a job yet. You know, I don't
Mm.
have any responsibilities or anything. So they actually come right away. So my sister first, she's
Nice.
gonna visit me for 3 weeks,
Lovely.
and then afterwards, my parents are gonna come for another 4 weeks.
Great.
So it's gonna be a lot of vacationing.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
fantastic.
it's so nice, yeah, to see them again. Um, but yeah, with that being said, they obviously don't want to stay in one place for three,
Yeah, I can
respectively
imagine.
4 weeks. So with all that planned out, I'll we'll end it because we're taking the flight over to the West Coast at some point,
Oh
and
right,
then
nice.
with my parents, I'm gonna end in Perth.
Ah, nice.
So yeah, so right now I'm kind of figuring out: do I want to stay in Western Australia? Is that where I want to start my adventure, or maybe I'll just fly back from there to Queensland and um, look for something in Queensland. So that's probably um, where I'm gonna end up. Might change, but
Yeah, it's nice to have
right
a bit of
now,
flexibility so you can do.
those are the two regions
Okay,
I'm considering.
that's exciting. That's so exciting. It's
Did
nice to have your family come as well because I think it's like one thing solo traveling around, but also when you can share that with someone, particularly your family, I think it's particularly special because then that's a lifelong memory that you can think back to each time that you see them. So that's yeah, really
yeah,
nice.
yeah, with my parents, my sister as well. It's just because I've always like I haven't been in Germany too much of my life.
Okay.
I've always been in different places. Um, so it kind of became something we do. Like they come and visit me.
Mm.
Obviously, I come back at some point as well and visit them. But especially now being all the way over here, and I told them, yeah, well, I'm taking the opportunity and I will go to Australia probably for 2 years,
Mm.
even. So it's very unlikely of me during that time going back to Germany just because it is like quite big.
Yeah.
So they said, yeah, of course, we're gonna come
Right.
visit you.
That's
So
the great thing about going to such a like a I think Australia's probably on a lot of people's lists, so I think any reason to go, they would, like, get a flight. That's definitely what my parents are like. They were definitely
yeah,
always wanted to go, but never really did it, and I think, yeah, me being here was their reason to actually finally do it, and,
right.
yeah, now that they've seen it, I think they're gonna come back and potentially live here for a little bit too, which is crazy.
So you said Australia is on your
Mm,
list as well.
yeah. Yeah, I'm heading a bit different. I'm doing kinda Tasmania. and
Right.
then, also got some distant family in Melbourne.
Oh,
So hopefully see them for a few weeks, and then Sydney, and then up the East Coast all the way up to Cairns is the plan. So yeah, I think I have 3 months as the tourist visa for that, so I'll do that, and
right.
then I think, I'm quite keen to do a working visa, so I'll probably come back to either New Zealand or Australia and do a working visa here for a bit.
But yeah, for now, both is
Mm.
just travel. So Australia as well. You're just gonna
Yeah, I think, I wanted to just get, like, travel around as much as I could to get a feel of, like, the areas that I might potentially want to, like, stay in,
right.
because um, I feel it I don't know, it might not be the case, but if I guess if you've got a job in that place, then you base your travels around that particular area. Whereas I
Yeah.
quite like the idea of initially be completely free and explore as many places as I could. And, like, I think even coming to this hostel and meeting kind of Quinn and Trent and saying they
Mm,
did the guiding, like the walking,
yeah.
that sounds
The
great.
guided
I'd just
walks
like to
too.
know that that's a job. So that would definitely be something I'd like to do. So it's nice to, yeah, see as many more places as you can, and then from there, I thought I'd decide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing about the working. I mean, obviously, it's super good that you can like just get a job
Mhm.
wherever, but um, yeah, you have to commit for at least a certain amount of time
Yeah.
because very rarely will someone say, "Yeah, just do it for a week and we'll see." So you really once you take on a job, you will stay in a specific area
Yeah.
for at least probably a month. I haven't seen a lot of places that do it less than that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you kind of if you get a picture now on your travels and you
Mm.
really see, oh, I loved it, maybe in Queenstown, maybe I don't know, in Christchurch or all the other
Yeah.
lovely places that New Zealand has, and
Yeah.
then Australia as well. That's a good starting point. So you know, oh, I can
Yeah.
spend some time there again.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's so hard because there's so many, like, choices as it is. I find it quite hard to know what to do, um, in terms of where to go and what to do. But I knew from a kid I'd always wanted to come here, so I was like, "I'll go to New Zealand first, and then if I run through all my savings, at least I've been to New Zealand." And then I thought I'll pick up some work, yeah, to see another country. But yeah, definitely wanted to do New Zealand, Australia.
Um, so as this is well, not just, but as this is travel
Mm,
for you, and you said you might be interested in a working holiday visa. For now,
mm.
is the plan also to return to the UK for a certain amount of time as well then?
Yeah, so the plan is after Australia, I kind of head back gradually, over a few months through kind of Southeast Asia, and then
Oh,
back for
nice.
UK summer, is the plan. And then I'll
Right.
hopefully just see lots of my family over the summer, and then I'll have like a think of what I'm gonna do next. Um, I don't even know. Maybe I'll go back to my job in London or whether I'll travel, but I think it's more probably gonna be do a working visa somewhere else. Um, yeah, because I feel like you can't always do a working visa slightly later on in life, so it's nice to do it. I thought now would be a good time to do it. Um, while I don't have too many responsibilities yet. So yeah.
Yeah. Um, well, I think your plan is amazing
Mm,
because getting New Zealand, Australia, and Southeast Asia all in there um, is really cool. I loved Southeast Asia.
mm,
Um, I was living in Indonesia for a year as well, and
nice.
that got me a lot of time to travel around there and see a lot of places there.
Yeah,
So I'm sure you're gonna love it there.
yeah.
It's amazing, and um, yeah, I definitely also can confirm that at some point you're gonna be too old. No, I'm just saying that because for the UK, I think the limit's actually 35. So you
Okay,
have
a tiny bit
I'm
longer.
pretty sure, so you don't really have anything to worry about.
Yeah,
But for me, that's kind of the reason why I'm gonna be 2 years in Australia
yeah.
rather than the possible 3, because you
Okay.
could actually, extend it twice,
Mm,
but only if you are and including in your 30th, year of
right.
life.
Okay.
So as soon as I turn 31, I can't extend anymore, so
Yeah.
that gives me 2 years, so I can do
Okay.
2 years and not a third. Um, which it is what it is, but
Mm.
yeah, I feel like it's a great thing for people to do. Just take advantage of these kind of things because
Mm.
we can do them and we should do them. I mean, if it's something we want to. If
Yeah.
someone listening doesn't have the desire at all to go abroad, by all means, you don't need to. But if it's in your head and you're thinking about it, you should definitely take advantage while you can.
Yeah. No, that's definitely what I was thinking. And I don't think I've ever been that much of like a career person and building my career. So the idea of staying and kind of going, I was like, that's not, yeah, no, let's
Mhm.
do something completely different. I'd quite like to work like lots of different jobs as well, not all within kind of engineering and um, just pick up whatever job I can. Hopefully, if I can get one which is outside, that would be great.
I feel um, like especially data engineering
Mm,
is something that you can take remotely easily
yeah,
as well because it's something you can do online,
yeah,
where you don't necessarily need to be even in the place that you're working for
yeah,
because you can
definitely.
just access the data from anywhere.
Yeah, I definitely think that might be something I maybe go down in the future. It's definitely finding the right company because even for kind of the companies I was working for, like Lloyd and Sainsbury's, you can only work for them. You can work remote, but only in the
And-
UK. You can't take your
Right.
laptop overseas. So it's kind of finding that right company that you can kind of work from anywhere for.
Yeah.
So I quite like the idea of like doing 6 months working remotely on my laptop in one place and then maybe 6 months on another and another and until I, yeah, eventually might settle down or maybe never.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like more and more that's becoming a thing as well.
Mm,
Because another colleague, she was working for us for housekeeping,
mhm.
and she's from Mexico originally,
Oh,
and she actually went back to Mexico to start a job in accounting, what she studied for.
yeah,
Um, and the cool thing is, they actually, even though it is in Mexico, it's a Mexican company, she is Mexican. They just say, yeah, you can work from all over the world. So
mm,
they don't constrain her to Mexico.
that's
So
great.
once she has finished her training, which has to be done all locally,
Yeah,
once she done that, she can go wherever she wants, which was one of the big things why she applied for that job specifically. So
yeah,
yeah, I feel like that's a thing that more and more people seek out, just because I guess in that sense, we kind of got lucky that COVID showed us that it
yeah,
is
yeah, it's possible.
possible and also showed the companies that it is possible and also and maybe even more profitable because you don't need to rent out a lot of
Mm,
space for your people. You don't need to rent out these skyscrapers in downtown
yeah,
London that I can only imagine how high the rent must
yeah,
be. Um, so yeah, I feel like we got lucky in that sense that it
mm,
showed both the employee but also the employer that there's nothing wrong with it at all and there's a feasible thing
yeah,
to do. And yeah, I feel like that's more and more
yeah,
coming.
yeah. I feel like, yeah, it would be good to use because I have spent about, yeah, 7 years training in what I do. So it would be probably be good to use a bit of that to, yeah, do some digital nomad or work from anywhere kind of jobs. But yeah, so if I end up doing that, maybe when I'm in my 30s, I might go back to it. I don't know. I might live a bit differently for a bit in the next 5 years or so. I don't.
Um, I don't know for data engineers in specific,
Mm,
but I have a lot of friends that are just in the IT sector.
yeah,
And I know that a lot of those things, if you have worked for a specific company um, and just like acquired some skills,
mm,
it's also quite, I mean, it's not easy per se, but what's easy to start as a freelancer.
yeah,
But then obviously the hurdle is finding
yeah,
customers. Um, is that something that data engineers, is that also a route that some people take?
yeah. I think I've heard of like companies where how kind of engineering, my kind of engineering work, you have things called tickets, and you basically have
Right.
a board of tickets, and you pick up a ticket and then you do the work and then it's done, and then you go to the next one. I think there are companies where like you're still kind of self-employed, but you will help them you'll pick up a few tickets for them.
Mm,
And so you'll kind of have that freelance self-employed, but then you've got plenty of work that you can do. And you could
right.
even like help out several companies with their tasks.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that's a really good option for like finding work. 'Cause I know for like AI jobs, it's kind of quite big now.
Mm.
Um, a lot of thing now. My friend's just recently got a job in AI, and he's actually training AI. So he's just picking up tickets along the side.
So he's basically making his own job
Yeah,
obsolete. Is that
exactly, on top of his other job, so yeah, he's doing very well. But yeah, that's definitely a very good field at the moment is kind of the data and AI. I think a lot of old companies are quite like, particularly I noticed at Lloyd, they're a bit scared of using it because there's so many rules and regulations. I
Mm,
think, like, all these new companies are gonna get a bit of an advantage because they don't have those regulations, so they can just use AI and give it a go, and
right.
then they can actually grow really quickly. I definitely think that will probably be a big in the future. I probably will end up working for some form of AI integrated job. Yeah.
Yeah, true. That's a whole nother thing. If we
Yeah.
talk about IT, it's we don't even know what IT is gonna look like in a year.
Yeah,
Because
like
AI
yeah,
is when that came up, like it's the changes is so rapid and so rapid.
yeah. Because it was similar thing with, like, the cloud, like, my did job didn't exist when I was born, but now my whole
Yeah.
job is kind of data, but on the cloud and kind of having that. So now the next thing is AI. I think it's that next jump, and it's gonna create sadly gonna wipe a few jobs, but actually it will create loads more jobs and also definitely helped me with my job. It's really, really it's like a tool that you can use to be more efficient and produce more work more quickly. So that's also definitely a good skill to have is knowing how to use AI because I think a lot of people and companies might be a bit scared of it because they're not sure of like where their data is going to be taken. But I think if you understand it, you can actually really leverage it to do some like really good work.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's um like one of these counter arguments as well for AI is just wiping out any job there is because
Mm,
you still need to kind of know what you're doing so that you can use AI
mm,
effectively. So
definitely.
I have no idea about data analysts, but um, for example, I used it quite a lot for just coming up with Excel formulas.
Mhm,
So, um, and the thing is, you can't just tell AI, for example, I need this and this to happen, do something. But if you know how Excel works, like if you have the knowledge of Excel and you know, okay, Excel can do these and these things, and you can
mm,
say, I need the sum of column B, percentage, blah, blah, and you tell it what you know Excel can do, and then just say, please write out the formula for me, just
mhm,
because the formula can get quite extensive
yeah.
then it can write out the formula for you. But
Mm.
you kind of have to know where the limitations are and what you can actually do, and then it will produce it for you. So,
Yeah, I found like definitely the main thing is like knowing that not always the response it gives you is like the most efficient way of doing it. It might give you a response which is where for me with coding, it would
right,
give me a response of 200 lines of code when actually if I thought about it, I could do it in 5 lines of code. So
right.
it gives you the answer, but you can always find not always, but a lot of the time you can find a better way of doing it. So how you kind of overcome that is by actually asking AI to assess itself. So you get one response and then put it
Mhm.
back into AI. Say, can you make this more efficient or this? And then you keep putting it in and out, like in, and you can
Right.
actually use several different AI softwares that are out there.
Oh, so
There's
they can
multiple ones
check
that you they
them.
can check themselves.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, definitely having some knowledge. But yeah, it's actually surprising now how if you know how to use AI, how far you can how you can get with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it becomes like so much better as well because they keep improving it.
Yeah.
Because I probably when I did that with my last job was like a year ago. I
Yeah.
can't even imagine what you can do with it
Yeah,
today.
yeah. Sometimes it's pretty scary what it can do. Like, you give it you could give it this podcast clip and it
Right.
could reproduce your voice saying anything. It only needs like a few seconds of your voice to then make you say anything.
That is pretty scary.
So
That
yeah,
that is actually pretty scary.
yeah. So it is pretty scary what it can do nowadays, but definitely it can do a lot of good. But hopefully, yeah, I think how I've heard about it is like it's kind of like a train, and we're just determining where the train is going. We're like laying those tracks, so we're kind of laying the tracks as the train is running. But
Mm,
so as long as we're in control and we're laying the tracks, we can determine where the AI goes. Yeah,
yeah,
what it does.
and I mean, I have no idea, what I'm talking about on that subject, but I feel like, I mean, on the one hand, it's good that there are, like, different AIs by now, and there's
Mhm.
different companies that do it, but in my, ideal utopian mind that I possess,
Mhm.
I just kind of um, feel weird that it is property of a company.
Mhm.
But I guess there is no other way because that's how our system is built. We can't
Yeah.
just build an AI as a community. That's just
Yeah.
impossible. But that's just why I'm kind of scared a little bit
Yeah.
because, like you said, it's not me, it's not you, it's not the people laying the tracks.
Yeah.
It's at the end, it's the company laying the tracks.
Yeah. Yeah. I think how they like a company that Lloyd's that they want to use their AI, but they don't want to obviously leak. They've got millions of people's of data. How they
Mm,
don't then leak it to AI is you can actually create your own version of AI and own AI
mm,
system that you just feed it your data, everything that you want, and you train it on your own data, and it all stays within your own thing. So you're
right.
not actually then giving that data back to the AI company. It's staying within your ecosystem, really.
Mm. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
I think that's the route that a lot of big companies, like old companies, will now go down. Well, I guess it's any company that has private data they don't want to leak. That's going to be the route that they'll probably choose.
So so everyone pretty much could create their own AI. So you could just take like the code that ChatGPT, that Copilot, is that how Microsoft wants is called? I don't know.
Okay.
Like how these things are made up. You take that code and then you just remove it from the data that
Mhm.
they feed them, and
Yeah.
you basically say, "This is your database. Everything I ask you, just answer it with these
Yeah.
files."
So you just train it upon the data that you have and you own, and it doesn't then feed that if you do it on the right software, but it doesn't then feed that data back to the main company. It will just, yeah, that is how,
Right.
yeah.
So I could basically do a the Wandering Mike AI where I say, just use the knowledge and the topics that we discussed on the
Mhm.
podcast, and
Yeah.
then we ask it questions
Based
like
upon all the recordings. Yeah, you could do that.
where is Hannah gonna be in 2 months?
Yeah.
And then it just goes
What
through
exact
everything.
location you're shooting. Yeah. It's really crazy. Yeah, it could do that.
All right.
And like it can do like accents now as well. I don't know if you've seen, but if you say to AI, talk in this accent or talk with slightly differently, it can change
Right.
its own voice.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I've actually only heard that AI can talk now. I haven't even
Yeah.
experienced that myself. I heard that can have like a whole conversations with, like, you can speak to it, but that
Yeah.
it also can speak to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can actually get two AIs to talk to one another, which is really, really interesting to watch because they're having a
That's
proper normal conversation, scarily normal.
that's where
And
it gets spooky again.
yeah. Yeah. So very cool, but very kind of scary at the same time.
I feel like maybe one of my next episodes I'm gonna have special guest ChatGPT.
Yeah. Yeah. You could just talk to ChatGPT for an hour.
Yeah, so
That would actually be really interesting to, like, hear,
yeah, right.
what it responded to what you are. I reckon it would be really good, you know? I reckon it would respond really well.
But y- yeah, I mean, I find it very fascinating. Um, I guess I just have this biased, rather pessimistic
Mm,
mind about it because let's say, um, some of the questions that sometimes come up in more philosophical conversations
Hmm.
that I tend to have on this podcast every once in a while. I would love to ask that to AI, like, obviously, very placatively, like, what's the meaning of life? To just take
Hmm.
a very broad and general one. And I feel like if I would ask AI something like that, it would never be whatever that even means, like its own answer, but
Hmm.
it just takes everything that has ever been written down about um, the meaning of life and will probably kind of state
Hmm.
what other philosophers have found out. I mean, maybe I should try it out and see what it answers,
Give
but
it a go.
that's just what I think. Because that's basically, I mean, that's what it should do, right? And that's
Mm.
all that it can do is like recite things that have already been written down by other
Hmm.
people.
Yeah. I think it can also, if it has all those sources, as well as saying what those other, each individual, it kind of combine them all, but also kind of can read between the lines as well and come up with its own conclusions from reading all these different ones.
So you think it can actually do
Yeah, I think so. So
it
it does
actually sounds
start to have a
interesting.
mind of its own. It's quite, yeah, I
Right.
know a lot of people who work a lot with AI, and they're like, each time they ask a question, they still write their please and thank yous because they're
Mm,
scared that one day it's gonna. Do you want to be on the stage with AI?
I do that too, actually. Like
Yeah.
whenever I did something with ChatGPT, I always say like, "Hey, ChatGPT, can you
Hmm.
do this for me, please?" Like,
Yeah.
I kind of like to do that too. Just
Yeah.
even though if you can probably just type in list of X Y things and it will do
Yeah.
the same thing. But I
Yeah.
kind of like the writing it a nice message.
Yeah. It's really useful for, I've used it a lot for traveling as well. I don't know if you've tried, but
Mhm.
I would put in like, I'm going to this place. What are the top things I should do there? I only have this
Mm.
amount of time. Write me an itinerary,
Oh,
and it will
cool.
actually can write you a really good itinerary because it's looking at all these sources on the web, which all suggest the best thing to do, and it's actually picking out what, yeah, the most people have said are the best thing. And you can
Yeah.
keep asking it. You can say like, "Oh, I'm traveling by car. Like, are there many petrol stations? Like, is it easy to
Mm.
get around?" And I actually now plan a lot of my travels using ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's actually it's just so if you know what to ask.
Yeah.
It's feels like a more efficient Google in a way
Yeah.
because if you type in things to do in Queenstown,
Mhm.
you still have to click on all the websites and you still have to filter all the information from, okay, this website says ABC,
Yeah.
second website, and it does it for you. Like
Yeah.
it looks at all these things and offers it to you in a summarized way.
Yeah, and I think it can what's really useful, you can tailor it to yourself. So if you put in, "Oh, I'm on a budget, and, I really like the outdoors," it will then suggest things which are really good, but also based on your
Right.
preferences, which, like, you'd have to go through a lot of articles to get that.
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, maybe I should put a little bit more into using AI
It's definitely very handy.
in my life. No, it really sounds it also sounds spooky.
It is spooky at the
I
same
hope
time.
it doesn't replace me as a podcast host.
I feel like nothing can replace that because it's like nothing can replace an actual human saying it, right? It's having if you listen to it and you know it's a human, it's different to listening to an AI thing. I think having that this to know about knowing it's a human is very different.
Yeah.
That's why I don't think it would be quite good for people who are lonely to they can now speak to AI and have a conversation. But then it just shows it would never match what it would be to have a conversation with a human. It's always going to have that, it's not a human. So,
Yeah. And yeah, I just I just hope that at no point AI can really substitute for human creativity and just
yeah.
come up with because like I said, and I trust you that
Mhm.
it can read between the lines, which I also never thought it could.
It can go like jump to assumptions and assume things. So that's why you always have to take the response with a pinch of salt because it can produce like incorrect answers. And as
Right.
long as you know enough about the topic, you know it's incorrect. And what's I think a bit dangerous is people simply rely on it and they think it's facts. That's
Mm.
it's not at that stage because there's still jobs out there who you're training that AI, so it's not going to be perfect. It probably will never be perfect. So you've always got to
Yeah.
use it, but don't take it for facts. And always do your own research a bit too.
Yeah, because I guess the way it's programmed as well, it will never say like maybe, perhaps, but
So it's facts, yeah.
it assumes because it's trying to like fill in the blanks, right? So whatever it assumes to fill in the blank, it will
Mhm.
just fill in as a fact.
Yeah.
So
And it doesn't know it's wrong either, so it will say it as if it's right. So you gotta know what you're talking like,
yes.
to be able to actually but for, like, majority of things that you can use it for, it's, like, really, really useful. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially things that aren't really a matter of life or death, like
Yeah.
our travel itineraries
Yeah.
and basically just summing up things. Yeah, I feel like it can be.
Yeah. I think it's interesting you say about the creative side because I know it's definitely had a lot of development in terms of, like, the art it produces and
Mm,
things, which is I think maybe for graphic designers, that might be hard to compete with because
yes.
you can say to AI, do me a picture of this in the style of Vincent van Gogh, and then it will create a bit of art in the style of that kind of artist. Um, and it can even like produce very lifelike videos now as well. So you can ask it, uh, do a video of Mike walking down the street in Queenstown, like
Right.
grabbing a burger, getting some cheese.
Oh wow. That's that's all very spooky. Um, I'm very happy that we talked about the topic though,
Mhm,
because it is an interesting topic and it's definitely something that it is there.
mhm,
So why not use it
mhm.
if you can use it to make your life more efficient and easier? But yeah, I'm also a little bit scared.
Yeah. Good to know that nothing can ever replace the human connection side of things. I don't think your podcast's in trouble, don't worry.
No, but I also don't want people seeing a video of me
Mhm,
going down some city I've probably or maybe haven't even been in my life.
mhm,
It's and yeah, it just really makes me think again about the internet.
mhm,
That just there's so much information on
mhm,
the internet, and now with that, how do we know
mhm.
what's true and what isn't?
Yeah.
Because that used to be like I remember a time where when I was younger, people were saying pick or it didn't happen. You know,
Mhm,
like you had to have a picture to prove it.
mhm.
And now there's a picture, maybe it didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, I know with things like I think Instagram, they might have AI tags or I think that
Mm,
might be more of a thing, like, you have to, like, tag.
like
But I know, like, say it produces a picture, I think underneath the picture there would be a blueprint so you could
mm,
identify it was AI produced. It's like with, so, like, students who use it to write their, like, thesis or
yeah,
dissertation, and they give it, and then the professor then can put it into a tester, and it can tell if it's AI. Like, it does have a trace, but the problem
yeah,
is when you then put it into a secondary AI. So now what students are doing to get by that is putting their dissertation, which is AI produced, putting it into another AI and tell them to
right,
remove all trace and make it sound human. And then it goes from having 99% like AI rating to zero point 0.2.
right,
And that's low enough then it counts. So yeah, there's a
yeah.
trace until you ask it to remove the trace.
Yeah, I guess yeah, it's just the whole thing, what it can do, and basically, yeah, because it has to for that step to work, it has to be able to analyze itself.
Mhm.
So kind of sounds to me in a way like maybe conscious is the wrong word, but it
Hmm.
kind of knows what it is.
Yeah.
Like it kind of knows what it itself is because if it's able to, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it just looks up what is an AI, what is an AI trace, and then removes these fakes without
Hmm.
even knowing that it itself is an AI.
Yeah.
But maybe it does know what it is.
Yeah. Maybe it does. Maybe it does. I feel like maybe that I think it's because it's trained on so much data and it's far more knowledgeable than like any of us can comprehend because it's so many like millions of sources, billions of sources at once.
Yeah. And it's definitely, I mean, that's why we have it, right? It's just
Mhm.
so helpful because it's more data than any human could ever really observe in a lifetime. I mean, even if we were able to read it, to really comprehend it and remember it at any
Mhm.
point of the day and being like, yeah, 15 years ago, I read this book
Yeah.
and AI just like that.
Yeah. It's really good at like summarizing too. So if you say there's a really book that you've read and you've forgotten every point, you could put the book transcript into AI and say, can you summarize the key points, what happened? And it can then like summarize everything really well, really concisely. Um, so definitely a really good way of like reading things really quickly, which is where kind of the students use it there because you're compiling hundreds of papers. So you just put
Mm.
the paper into AI, summarize this for me. You take out that and then add it all together and there's your dissertation.
Now I feel like a fool for actually going to school and doing
Yeah.
work.
So
Um,
yeah, what did you do at school? What did you grow up doing?
um, so I actually studied environmental engineering
Environmental engineering. Cool.
and development work. So I did my 12 years of high school in Germany, which is like the highest. Because you in Germany you can actually do different types of education.
Hmm.
You could only do 9 years of school
Hmm.
to then immediately go into a trade. For example, you can do 10 years of school as like middle way of the two, and then you do 12 years of school, which you do need to then study.
Yeah.
So I did that and then studied environmental engineering and development work.
Hmm.
And the development work part enabled me to go abroad to Indonesia. So that was
Oh,
part
no,
of the
that's
study
fabulous.
program
Cool.
to study and do an internship in Indonesia for a year as well.
Yeah. Nice. That's really cool.
Yeah,
I don't think, environmental engineering, is it like building is that anything to do with like wind turbines and that sort of thing? Or
yeah.
okay.
So it actually was at that point one of the first environmental engineering degrees in Germany.
Mhm.
By now they have, I'm sure, I don't know, but I'm sure they have a bunch more. So it basically combined just all sources of renewable energies,
Yeah.
so solar, wind, hydro, and it also combined just general environmental awareness and basically, um, I don't know the English word. I know it in German, but like the maybe it's best translated into preservation of the environment.
Okay.
So basically, nothing to do with energies at all, but just being like aware of water pollution, what to do against that,
Mhm.
ground pollution, light pollution, like all
Yeah.
these things, even though they don't actually have to do with energy, but just being aware of them
Okay.
as well. And yeah, so basically, the main part though was like the different parts of energy production,
Mhm.
um, designing these plans, maintaining these plans. Also, you could go in a lot of different directions. Also, some chose to go into more of a like environmental law kind of thing. So it's also like in designing these plans, what kind of rules do we have to abide by? What are the laws that govern how certain things can be used? How high can the wind turbine be? Stuff like that.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, it was a really nice introductory bachelor to just the topic in general.
Yeah. No, I did a like as part of mechanical engineering, you had the option to do a sustainable engineering module.
Right.
So I did that as part of it. So it's quite interesting to see. what you learned at Germany, the compared to like in the UK, what
Mm,
were you kind of taught? So yeah, that's really interesting because we were more into like the resources and how much resources go into building each thing,
right.
and then like how we can best build things to like conserve energy. So, like building things in like a modular approach where like say your
Mm.
phone, you can instead of having one fixed phone, you can swap in and out the battery, the camera, each part. You
Oh,
build
yeah.
it yourself, and if one part breaks, you swap out. So then that's more kind of what that went into my course. So
Yeah, that's quite I feel like a couple of years ago, there was a phone like that.
yeah.
I feel like I've
Oh, yeah.
I've seen, like, maybe it never, because I've seen prototype, maybe it never developed,
Mm,
where it literally was like a little Lego phone. You had, like, all these different parts, and you could swap them out, and you could, like, build your own phone depending on, "Oh, I want more, RAM, or I want
mhm.
more storage," and you just put 2
Yeah,
storage thingies in there, and
yeah.
it looked quite neat. Maybe it never
I feel
developed.
like it must be 'cause we do it the same when we like people build their own computers, right? It's all parts that they put
True.
together. So I feel like they're doing something right there. So I think they need to do it with phones as well.
Yeah.
Definitely sustainability wise, definitely a good thing to do. Because I feel like if you think about how many phones you're probably going to have in your lifetime, that's a lot of, and laptops, how many laptops you're going to have in your lifetime. That's
Yeah.
a lot of resources.
Yeah, sadly, a lot of people are gonna have, like, probably 80 different phones because they get one every
Yeah.
year, which I mean, I'm not judging, I had my phones for, like, 6 or 7 years, which
Yeah.
nowadays might not even be possible just because of the software, and all that
Yeah.
stuff, but yeah, I just try to keep my
Yeah.
phones and, like, electronic devices for as long
That's
as
the
I
best
can.
way to do it. It's quite different in London. You basically you keep your phone until it gets stolen. Yeah.
True.
So, yeah, and now, like, there's so much phone crime, it's like almost you hear of a friend each week getting their phone stolen out their hand or,
Oh, wow.
yeah, taken when they're the tubes of
I've
the doors of
seen
the
that,
tube, I
it's
mean,
just
yeah.
closing on someone.
Yeah, it happened to me.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Oh, that must be so
Yeah.
shitty.
Be nice if I could keep a phone long enough for it to actually die. At least someone in China's probably using it until it dies. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're shipped all the way. You can
I
actually trace them. It's really funny because you have them on fine fence and you notice it being then moving across all the way.
yeah, that that is funny, yeah, and I've seen videos of that online, and I was so sure they must be staged. I was
No, it's so
like,
real. It's
people
so
really
real.
grabbing into a tube and just
Yeah, you see them as well. You're walking around the streets and there'd be a whole 4 or 5 guys, well, it might be guys on bikes, all dressed in black, balaclavas on like these electric bikes which can go so fast that you don't even need to pedal. You just put the throttle down and faster on a motorbike, just take your phone. They nip onto the pavements, grab someone's phone, and then they're off. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
But, I guess one of the reasons why that is happening is because they are just so expensive. Like,
Yeah, they're
phones
worth
just
a
have
lot.
so much value,
Yeah.
these days.
Yeah. And you can easily steal 6, 7 phones an hour, and then that's a quite a good way. Yeah, but I definitely once I had my phone stolen, I realized all the things that you need to do on your phone to, like, protect all your data on it as well.
Mm,
So now my phone is all kind of yeah, if it got stolen, at least my, yeah, data wouldn't get taken.
yeah. Like
Um,
all these things with, like, multi-factor authentication and stuff like that, right?
yeah, it's like if someone steals your phone, like, making sure they can't actually access your iCloud,
Mm,
because that's where all your data is on, so making sure that's restricted, that sort of thing, that really helps protect if your phone's stolen. But yeah. But so far, New Zealand seems a great place. I haven't had to really worry about that. It's been quite nice.
yeah, New Zealand, definitely, in my opinion, or in my experience rather, is the safest country I've been to, yes.
Yeah, Germany must be pretty safe there. I feel like they have it together, that country.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, true. Actually, when I say that, I never have Germany in my mind. I
Really?
just think about all the places I've been apart from
Apart
Germany.
from your home. Would
But,
you call it your home? Would you call it home still when you grew up?
uh, that's a great question. I definitely would call it home.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like it is shared with Portugal though, with
Okay.
Lisbon
Mm.
because um, obviously 3.5 years isn't that much compared to the maybe in total 21 years that I lived in Germany.
Mhm.
Um, but just having a job for that whole time, like having the same job, like the same company at least, having the same friend group, it
Mhm.
kind of feels like a life has been built there as well.
Mm.
So I've because I've been pondering that question if people say after your travels that you'll be doing for the next couple of years, would you ever go home? And I was thinking of if I go back to Europe, maybe I'll even go back to Lisbon.
Mm.
So, um, but yeah, Germany will definitely, it is definitely my home.
You
It's where
still
I
have
grew
it.
up. It's where I have my family. It's where I have my longest and oldest friends. But Lisbon kind of became a second home
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I guess 3 years is enough time to kind of, yeah, now think of that as a home so that you go back to. But when you compare it to 20 years, it
It's,
doesn't seem a lot of time, but I guess in those 3 years, you're an adult and you're like, I think by that age, you probably know quite a lot about yourself and what you like, and then your friend, you attract the friendship group who you're really, yeah, close to.
yeah. Yeah, maybe if you can say that about relationships and work and
Mhm.
stuff like that, if that's the right word. But yeah, maybe it is more active.
Yeah.
Like you are seeking out things that you know that you want to spend time on, that you want to spend your energy on, and yeah, for me, it also always was kind of going abroad into a country where I don't know anyone.
Mhm.
Basically, everything I do is very um, intentional.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not really saying that it isn't in Germany, but um, you just are born like where your parents live, right?
Mhm.
You are just going out on the street where yeah, where you live, where
Mhm.
your house is, and therefore a lot of the things that happen to you, a lot of the people you interact with is kind of thrust upon you.
Mm.
Rather than saying, yes, I want to go to Lisbon, maybe other than Porto, which I could also go to in Portugal.
Mhm.
And it's more intentional, and then you obviously, work is one of these other things where things are thrust upon you
Mhm.
because you can choose your colleagues.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. But um, yeah, being an adult, you can choose who you spend your time with outside of work. And yeah, it just always felt like, um, to me at least, it was more intentional the things I
Mhm.
did abroad rather than back home.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I guess I get a bit of that when I'm, like, solo traveling. Everything you do is you're doing it because you want to do it, and nothing's ever you're, like, less your decision, but impacted by other things. So, if you
Yeah,
wanna go to a certain place, you go. If you wanna stay a few nights, you stay a few nights. If you just wanna go to the next place, you because everything's very intentional, and, like, even every hour you're choosing what you're gonna do, where you're gonna stay, what activity you're gonna do, where I'm gonna eat, where am I gonna get my food, where am I gonna get petrol.
yeah,
Like, it determines, yeah, everything.
yeah. That's something I think I might not have been on a podcast, but it's something talked about recently as well
Mhm.
is solo traveling has a lot of good sides and that's for me is the biggest one is just you can really do what you want because we talked about I guess it's about balance how vacation with friends can be super good as well
Mhm.
because at that point I was talking about a trip to Italy I was taking with uh like some of my high school friends a couple of years ago
Mhm.
and how cool that just was, just all of us being at the same place and just
Mhm.
relaxing and it it's more like a yeah, it's more like a relaxing vacation, being with your friends and just being very comfortable and everything.
Hmm.
And it's definitely needed, and it's definitely has value in people's lives. Then solo traveling is just this whole different thing where
Hmm.
you um, also sometimes are not comfortable, and that's part of the experience as well. And trying to
Yeah.
uh, figure things out. But then, yeah, for me, the biggest part as well is just it's just you, so you
Hmm.
can really, really decide what you spend your time on.
Yeah, I probably learned the most about how I handle situations when I'm on my own. Because if something goes wrong, it's just you. You got to figure it out, and you can either get really annoyed about it or you can just laugh about it. And there's no
Yeah.
one else to like help, so you just got to laugh about it and figure out. Um, I think that's definitely really, really useful to have. And yeah, I do miss like sharing moments. If I'm at a particularly like beautiful view, and I'm like, oh, it'd be nice if this person was there to share it with.
Mm,
That's sometimes like a little hard. But yeah, I definitely have the freedom, I think, of solo traveling, which kind of draws me to do a lot of my travel solo.
yes. Um, I've just looked at the time, and I feel like we could do this for hours more. But we actually ended up talking about a lot of interesting
Gosh, yeah,
things.
so many different topics.
And again, I will dream of Electric Sheep tonight for those old enough to remember the book. Um, but no, I'm very happy about the things we talked about.
Okay, cool.
It was really interesting, and yeah, travel also always a passion of mine. I'm
Hmm.
always glad to talk about that as well. Um, so yeah, Hannah, just thank you for taking your time and sharing your experiences, your
Thanks.
insights.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, it was wonderful. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks.
And with that, goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.